All right, welcome back to TCI's studio here with TCI recruiting guru Gavin Oliver. I'm gonna have to come up with another word other than guru in the next video. But, we here in the studio on a Saturday, cranking out a bunch of videos on recruiting, since obviously that's what everybody in our business loves to talk about. This particular segment, I'm going to talk about a guy that seems to be getting a lot of attention, a lot of discussion on our board and other places. Everybody wants to know what he's doing, what he's thinking. Jordan Burch. Gavin and I visited Jordan and his teammate Alex, I guess maybe this time a year ago. Yep. Went by and saw him at the Hammond School. That was the school that Jeff Scott went to when his father was coaching there at South Carolina, so he's very familiar with that situation. Burch is top 1, 2, 3 in most of the rankings nationally now. He's very high up there, consensus, top 5 national prospect. So we kind of want to talk about where things are, things to look at, maybe that you don't read about. A lot of people are assuming, he's going to South Carolina because he's visiting there all the time. He hadn't been to Clemson in a long time. I think, Gavin, when was the last time he was Clemson? January?
Yes, that's the last time that he was known to be at Clemson. He keeps things very, very close to the vest. His family keeps things close to the vest unintentionally. They don't want to give out anything about it, and in that way, it's kind of almost worked oppositely because there's so much scrutiny because he's not saying anything in public. Everybody's leaving it up to speculation and kind of picking apart the tea leaves, and it's kind of people are forming their own opinions instead of actually forming opinions based off of what they've actually heard from Jordan and his family. So it's kind of worked. I don't know if it's worked according to their plan, but anyways, he's kept things very close to the vest. So
everybody's trying to read tea leaves, because they're not getting anything directly from him, or the family.
Exactly. So the last time we know that he was at Clemson was January, but he could have been back since then. He just
was not here for camp, not that we know of, not that we saw.
No.
Obviously, that was a chance. Obviously, he was at South Carolina. But the South Carolina thing, and I think that's, again, people are reading a lot into things. We've had our forecast as partly sunny on him for a while, and we continue to believe that's the case. Obviously, I think everybody knows Muschamp's son is his quarterback at school. He's now got a teammate that's committed to Alex Huntley, who's committed to South Carolina. It's easy for him to make that trip to Columbia. Mm-hmm. That's what everybody down there around him wants him to do. He's got teammates, so it's easy to do that. A couple things to think about. If he wants to commit to South Carolina, if he knows he wants to go to South Carolina, that would be an easy commitment to make right now. Again, because that's the environment he's in every day. He would get everybody excited, lots of love every day because he's committing to the Gamecocks. If he wants to commit to Clemson, that's a harder commitment to make right now. The sooner you make that commitment, the more grief you're going to get from that same environment where you're going to school with the coach's son, who's your quarterback, and you got a teammate that's going there. Everybody around the town wants you to go to South Carolina. So that's a hard commitment to make. If you want to come to Clemson, the longer you wait to make that decision, and the more you play the recruiting game and say, I love South Carolina and Clemson, and I'm struggling with my decision. That's kind of, in some ways, the easier path. Again, if you want to go ahead and commit, if you know for sure you're going to South Carolina, that's an easy decision, and quite frankly, probably a decision you would want to go ahead and make as soon as possible so you can help them recruit other top prospects.
Right, and kind of along those same lines, I think Clemson's fine with that too if he's waiting, because the longer, in my opinion at least, the longer that he waits to make his decision, the better for Clemson, because once the season rolls around and Clemson's expected to compete for another national title, South Carolina, really tough schedule, could be dropping a good many games, so
may not even be bowl eligible.
May not, and once he sees that, I don't know, right now he looks at Clemson, the depth chart, a lot of talent there, maybe that's a factor, maybe he doesn't want to go there and compete, but at the same time, Clemson's producing NFL guys left and right on the D-line. South Carolina, they're going to compete for championships. South Carolina, can't say the same for that. And so the longer that he waits, I think the better for Clemson, because they'll, not only, like you said, the pressure would be off him if he waits, but for Clemson, it just plays into their hands, I think.
I think you're right. And, we talk about the power of the Paw all the time, and we know Clemson's going to be all over TV. Clemson, Alabama, they're going to be discussed all the time when people are talking college football. South Carolina's not going to be in that discussion. You know, they'll be in their discussion around their games, but they're not in the national limelight, and they're not a top 25 team, and you know they're going to be lucky to go to a bowl game, so they're not going to be getting talked about. They'll be getting talked about a lot in Columbia where he is, but if he's watching TV and he's watching the national folks, it's not. There is a key sign I think to watch, and that is next month, the all-in cookout that they have in end of July. I think it's usually around the 25th, 26th. I don't know exactly what Saturday falls this year, Friday, Saturday, but that's the next thing to look for, because that's when Clemson does like to get all of their guys together, build that bond, continue to build that group bond. So that's a visit I think they would obviously like to see him make. Again, for some of the reasons we talked about, that's not an end of the world if it doesn't happen, but I think that'll give us a little better indication maybe of where his head is.
I agree with that, and it'd also be big for Clemson to get on campus, because that's what the cookouts, when all the, you know, he gets to experience just a genuine, laid back, relaxed atmosphere. They're not going to be pressuring him to commit there while he's there. They're just going to be showing him what Clemson's all about, the homely atmosphere, the family. All the Clemson's commits, most of the Clemson commits are going to be there, so they can kind of help show him that brotherhood and kind of build that relationship with him, and all of those things I think would really help Clemson's case if they can get him on campus. That's just the big question. Are they going to get him on campus? And that remains to be seen right now, but certainly that would be a big sign.
Big difference from going to South Carolina during camp or whatever and hanging around maybe 1 or 2 5-stars and a bunch of 4 and 3 stars. Coming to Clemson and hanging out with the best of the best in the country. Yeah. They're going to bring in one of the top linebackers, and maybe I think the top linebacker in the country is going to be out here that same time, all the way from California. Yeah. You've got, you know, obviously the best defensive line class Clemson's already ever had in history, already committed. Yeah. Best offensive line class. You got DJ. All those guys are going to be there together. So if he comes to that event, and if you want to play with the best and win championships and, you know, get drafted high because of, you know, going through a program like Clemson, that'll be one of the things he looks out. If he's just looking for playing time, he can go the Zach Pickens route and go to South Carolina and play a lot right away.
And you mentioned it, Brian Breesy, Miles Murphy, 2 5-stars on the D-line already. They're going to obviously be pitching to him, hey, come be a part of this special D-line class. Imagine what we can accomplish together if you join us. In fact,
K-Part, Trey Williams.
K-Part's
borderline 5-star as well.
Yeah, and there's actually a graphic that you might have seen on Twitter recently with you know, Clemson's commits are obviously Breesy's Breesy told me on the phone recently after he committed that Burch was one of the big guys that he's going after now, and there was a graphic that surfaced on Twitter. The commits tweeted out as the missing piece to the puzzle. It showed all the current Clemson D-line commits as like a puzzle piece, but then there was one piece missing.
A little white spot missing.
Yeah, a little blank spot, and it was Jordan Burch's piece. The piece of the puzzle was laying off to the side. So these guys are pitching to him, hey, come be this final piece to this historic puzzle that is Clemson's D-line class.
So that's kind of a feel for you. Obviously, we get questions every day on the board. I get questions just walking around. I'm sure Gavin does as well on where things stand. You know, I can tell you South Carolina feels pretty good about where they stand. Clemson feels pretty good about where they stand. We're going to find out over the next few months where Jordan's head is once he goes a little more public with things. But still think Clemson is positioned to, you know, to be in this thing. We've talked about the reasons and some of the things that might make him wait a little while, and we'll see how everything plays out. But stay tuned to TCI. We got a lot more headed your way, a lot more from the studio. Gavin's got his stories he's cranking out every day. So stay tuned to TCI for the most complete coverage of Clemson football and recruiting.